evening, all. Apologies for the delayed start. There were some minor concerning tech issues, such as my camera's not working, but my camera backup is now working. So we're here. We're ready to go. I'm joined, as always, by a new guest for a tier list, and I'm joined by, you might recognize the name, you might have seen him heckling me in chat, deservedly so, but still. And I didn't say, but I'm here to get my revenge, so I can lambast him live on stream. It is MoreDarkElfContent. I'm joined by Callum. How are you doing this fine evening?
Well,
Hello?
oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. I'm just I had your stream open, so I was echoing. So
No worries. I could see the confused look. I was like, oh god, tech issues as soon as you start. The reason we're a bit delayed is because I had tech issues, not blaming anyone else for that one. It's fully me. Jordan says, return of the dodgy microphone. It shouldn't be, but it should sound...
Is there cackling? Or is that just me?
Do I sound like I'm crackling? Is that the issue that people are having?
No, you stop now. You stop now.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, I was worried that was my microphone because it started not long after I put my headphones in. Because apparently we're all both.
Yeah, you sound great. I sound the same as normal. We're back. We're here. Through you guys for a loop. Jordan, you can't mess with me like that. Jordan was messing with me on Discord and seems to have just taken it straight to the YouTube live chat.
This is not the time. It's not the time.
No, it's the perfect time because I fell for it. So we have got some familiar faces. Glad to see you all. Anthony, first. You managed to get here first pretty consistently. Jordan as well. Anubis, good to have you here, bud. I will get around to answering your message. It has been a busy day. Krieghammer, glad to have you. Ginger Steve, always a pleasure. Hope you're doing well. Globo XX1. I appreciate one person being here to let me know that things are actually sounding correct, so I appreciate you. Jordan's
one
just
person
then.
Is not agent of chaos.
We're all agents of chaos, truly. All right, so we are here to talk about the very exciting Light Cavalry, and this is going to be one, I think this might be the one that upsets people the most, maybe even more than the army tier list one. I'm going to tell you why. It's because I think people are... Let me just adjust that for you. Yeah, I think people are going to have some very wrong opinions on Light Cavalry, and that's because they're not easy to use. And, as we know, the general internet likes to think they know what they're talking about. Doesn't always know what they're talking about. So, we're gonna ruffle some feathers with this one. I'm very excited to do so. As last time, it's a new format, the way I'm doing it, because I can't go through and timestamp everything. I barely have enough time to breathe as it stands. I can't be, timestamping everything. There's still one person every stream that tells me to do it. I won't be doing it. But we are going to do it in order. Force of Fantasy, Ravening Hordes, and then the Legacy Armies in order. And if I get chance, I will timestamp the armies, because that's a little bit easier for me to do. So, if you want to hear us talk about Lizardmen, skip 70% through on the video if you're not watching live. You get the picture. You can see them down below. We're going to go through pretty much in order. So... Light Cavalry. What are your thoughts on Light Cavalry? Are you a Light Cavalry enjoyer?
Well, actually, I am. Yeah, I'm actually it's actually one of my favorite units to use, which is just a massive coincidence that it's like the seventh
that you
person
picked
to
this one.
Yeah, so it's I'm quite glad about that. I've a lot of the units I'm seeing there I've used or I currently have in a cabinet behind me actually. So I think I've got enough knowledge to sort of at least guide you to the correct tier, as opposed.
I see how it is.
After all, it's wrong. You're going to get slack, so be bothered.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. And that's a really good point. If you think that we're wrong about this, I don't want to hear it in the comments, because you're going to tell me one thing without context, and that makes no difference. If you want to argue with me politely and respectfully, there is a Discord link down below. Join that Discord. There is a channel called Tier Lists. Post what you would put in there for people to critique. See how you like it. That's how we approach critique on the tier lists. Before we get into it proper, we've got some more faces. Jalob's here. Hope you're doing well. Will Gunson as well. Ian's here for the Dark Riders. Me too, buddy. I love Dark Riders. Winslow in Existence here. Great to have you both. Glade Riders are best. Glade Riders are pretty good, but they're not the best light cavalry in Wood Elves, so I don't think we can say that they're the best unit. Or says, your favorite personal light cav unit that's not counting sisters. All right, let us know what that one is. Jay's here. Sister of the Thorn is S. What else need this? I don't think you're going to be disappointed on that one. Also says,
yeah,
are we
I'm
going
not that much of a
contrarian? yeah, that's fair. I'm very much looking forward to just the 5-minute hate-filled rant between the two of us about Dark Riders. That's going to be be fun. So Jay says, are we going to Wales this weekend? I'm not. Are you going to Wales this weekend?
No, I've never been to Wales. I don't think.
I have been to Wales, but it's always rained. So maybe next time I go it won't. But I've been flooded out of campsites before.
Actually, I'd love to go to Zealand as well. Actually, just as Michael is saying.
Yeah. That rat bastard very generously donates gutter runners with giant rats as rollerblades S tier. Genuinely, I think pre-nerf gutter runners, I might have been tempted to put up an S tier. It might be a little bit memey, but back when they were 3 points for a strength 3 model with weapon skill 3 that fought in 2 ranks at all times, that was so good. Understandable that they nerfed it, but I am still sad about that. Yes, and Winslow very correctly points out we are including Warbeasts in the light cavalry category, which is very much thanks to Callum's prompt on that. But also when I counted through, I was like, there's like 6 Warbeasts, so this would not be a full stream on its own. So good to have him.
Yeah, and a lot of the time there's a lot of overlap between what some Warbeasts do with, like where does the
and sometimes overlap between
it's just like
between Warbeasts and chariots.
Pretty much even the Razorgors are a bit outlier here. They're a bit weird they've ended up here, but we'll talk about those. I've got a lot of opinions about Razorgors.
I bet you do. I think that's probably why you're asking if it was them. And Michael says, hi from New Zealand. Well, good to have you all. Let's get started, and we'll pick up any messages as they come along. So we're going to start off with Empire. And there are 2 Light Cav here, both made from the same kit. Both really nice models, actually. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the Nuln detachment shapes those 2 units, because I'd like to use at least the Outriders. I'm not so bothered about the Pistoleers, but something about having a gun with 6 barrels is just, big fan of that. So the way that I tend to do this, as you know, is one of us picks a unit and the other one has to describe what they think about it, give their rating on it, and then the other one weighs in. More potential to look like a muppet on the internet, which is always funny for the viewers. So you're more than welcome to pick the first one. Which one do you want me to talk about first? Which one?
I think, because I haven't used either of them, I haven't played against them, but I'm very much aware of one of them's problems that I think I'm sure about the other one. So I'll let you pick Outriders, and I'll take the
excellent. The easy
one.
Pistoleers. Yeah, that's super fair. So I actually really like Outriders. They're pretty cheap. They're 19 points. They come base with a repeater handgun, which is 3 shot, strength 4, AP 1. Yes, you're shooting at -1, but you're a human with weapon skill 4. Ballistic skill 4. So you're basically shooting 3 shots with no penalty if you look at sort of the expected human stat line. So that's great. They also come with fire and flee, open order, and fast cav, so they can march and do a pivot, but you can't march and shoot, so you're not going to be doing that. You also don't want to move and shoot because they have ponderous on their weapons, which is just sad. You'll be hitting on 6s at long range, which is truly depressing.
Do they come with a pistol as well, though, for when they do move?
They do come with a pistol. That's true. That is a good point.
I heard somebody mention it's not the end of the world. They have to. But no, I really like them. I haven't actually played against them, but in theory, even using my Dark Elves, using Dark Riders, I often get a unit in a decent place and just kind of keep firing down, and all of a sudden, if you're not taking a movement penalty, you're getting more hits. And with the same unit, with the same idea with them, if you get them into a good place, they're going to just keep. They're going to force people to come deal with them, as easy as that would be if they do. But
yeah, as you say, because they have skirmish and vanguard, and then swift stride and vanguard, and they can also skirmish. They're really flexible in how you're going to use them. I have used 3 units of them. They have an upgrade in that you can give the sergeant a grenade launching blunderbuss, or just better pistols, which is aggressively fine. I think the blunderbuss is good on the basis of you hit on ballistic skill, but then you get the multiple hits. So you're slightly more accurate on the move, which is fine because it's D3 plus 1 hit. So it's objectively better. Is it 10 points better? Yeah, probably. But yeah, I really like them. So the way that we rank them is S is you're going to see it in every list. A is you build around it. B is I'm happy to put it in my army, but it's not in every army. C is I don't really see a point. And then F is Lizardmen. That's the...
Yeah. I think we should probably change it to drunk for this.
Oh, don't worry. There's a couple of units that go in here for sure. Not
just
to put any spoilers out. But so given that I've got to commit, I think for me, and as much as I've talked them up, I think they start off in B for me because there are other things you want to see with Empire.
I would think B is kind of the correct choice because I'm just thinking that you could get with one in your army. I don't think it's kind of like you put one in, you kind of hope you get somewhere good, and then keep shooting down the flanks. Basically, I think with the moment you start taking once you start building an army around them, you're kind of hoping your opponent doesn't bring fireballs in Old World, which is not going to.
That's going to be a problem we see a lot with Light Cavalry.
Yeah, should we? Yes, yeah. It's pretty much. There's going to be a lot of talking about do they die to one fireball or two fireballs? Two fireballs being top tier, and then bottom tier being the one fireball.
Yeah, so in that vein, they do come with heavy armor. So they've got a 5-up save base, which on Light Cavalry is actually pretty respectable. I'm a big fan of the 5-up save on the Light Cav, which will I think we're probably going to argue about later on down the line. Bit of foreshadowing there.
I like.
But yeah,
like 5+, because
okay,
as long as you have a 5+ save, you can always get lucky. It's like that's why I always feel like 50% of your 5+ saves is a very common occurrence in the.
Yeah, or 0%. There's
or 0.
Either or.
Of course.
The obvious combo here, and the same with the Pistoleers, you can put a Warrior Priest of Ulrich in there. They've got the so they've got the prayers. Prayers are bad because you've got no way to give like a reroll of leadership to them. But if you spend 110 points for a High Priest of Ulrich, you have leadership 8. And then you have to be mounted on a horse. You're up to like 130 points or so. You can do a prayer, which is a leadership in your command phase, and until the next start of turn subphase, your next start of turn, your unit and mount and model get multiple wounds 2. So I've seen a lot of people very excited about taking big unit of Outriders and multiple wound 2 and killing dragons that way. And I've had to break some hearts. I was like, I understand what you're saying, but have you heard about maths? Because if you do the maths,
it's a little bit too many hurdles, and it's kind of like once you put, some units do very well. I think also I like them by themselves, just going onto the board, hopefully getting some lucky shots in. And that's kind of like where the moment you start to combo into them, I feel they get worse. It's kind of like I feel a lot of units in the Old World are like that.
Yeah.
Like the moment you start trying to make them better than they are, you're actually making them points inefficient.
Sure.
But yeah, I think B is a solid.
Yeah, this is one of the units that when I was looking at Old World, coming from a 40k player perspective, when I was looking at Old World from the start, I was like, this thing seems absolutely cracked because I could just take, in 1,000 points, I don't know, you can take like 6 units of them, and I'm just going to gun my opponent off the board. Obviously, we've got rule of 3 and also things that don't die to guns, like all of the good units in the game. But like it was definitely like on paper I was sucked in, like I fully was buying the hype there. But
which we always do when shooting every shooting unit, everybody does that every time. Like one of these units, I think when Outriders came out in 8th edition, I'm pretty sure people were doing the same, the maths and stuff, just as I was saying. And then once you get modifiers, positioning, not able to see, not got all your models in the right arc, all of a sudden the output just never gets quite as high as you want. But
yeah, like people always get worried about repeater crossbows, and you're like, please don't be worried. I'm going to hit you on 12s. Like it's fine. It's really fine.
Same magic. both times I played the Dwarf Expeditionary Force.
Yeah.
Every time I'm like, oh my god, there's so many guns, so many guns, so many guns. Like turn through in combat when they're all gone.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, like
I thought they were guns.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think we've rambled around the nice one for a while.
Yeah.
We can probably wrap up Pistoleers pretty quickly. What's the problem with Pistoleers, mate?
They're impetuous, and
Yeah.
The whole point of Light Cav is that they can reliably be in a position on the board every turn where exactly where you want them, doing exactly what you want, with the shooting kind of being a bit of a bonus. And Pistoleers are kind of the opposite. They don't the only way you're going to get used to it in this point is, well, you don't want them to charge something, you want them to charge block something. And then
Yeah.
if you are impetuous, all of a sudden you just charge the thing you're meant to block, and then you're giving that opponent, that unit, an overrun, and it's getting closer to you instead of further, pretty much.
Yeah, but remember, you can use your pivot to face away so that you can't shoot the guns that you paid for. Doesn't that sound great?
Yeah, it's I was paying 3 times the amount for basically something warhounds could do. Yeah, it's disappointing. They're an absolute iconic fantasy unit, and they've just ruined them. It's not even. I don't like. I'm actually fairly optimistic. You'll probably see when we start discussing warlocks and the like. I'm quite optimistic about a lot of stuff, and I try to see the best in units. But this is just. It's just you can't use them.
That
You
doesn't
can't
sound
use
like
them.
the you I know at all.
Pez about loads of stuff, but
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm usually
Perfect. It's
oh,
just
yeah,
whatever my opinion is that you've got to argue with.
you're
That's reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I just
like that's a fair position to take, by the way. So right, where do we drop the Pistoleers? Are you saying F?
I think F's probably to start with. I see what else ends up in here.
Yeah.
I've heard people say they're not as bad as like they think they are, and then follow it up with a story of how they failed impetuous and charged something that they shouldn't be killing, and then they get lucky, and then the opponent fails the leadership test as well that they probably shouldn't have failed. And all of a sudden,
Yeah.
done well, but it's like that's not going to happen every game.
Yeah. Well, so let's just look at that. Let's just because right, they're T3 Light Cav with heavy armor. They move 8 and they've got swift stride. So worst case scenario, you're charging in. You've got an extra attack from your hand weapon, your brace of pistols. Is there anything there that's good? I just don't think there is.
Just a lack of AP as well. Like it's even if you get lots of hits and like get the wounds on, even on like a more fragile unit, they can throw a couple of dice past a 6+ on a light armor or something, you're bouncing. Or it's just.
I think as well. The big problem is they don't have Vanguard built in, and they're the unit that needs to get closer as opposed to the Outriders. So you can pay for it, but it's 2 points a model. Sure, they start out cheaper than the Outriders, but I still don't love that. But then also they've got countercharge. They're the unit with countercharge. I want to do either a stand and shoot or a fire and flee charge reaction with them. When am I ever going to say, actually, yeah, I do want to, I want to countercharge that. That's going to make my life better.
That's
so
really bizarre. I didn't even think we had that.
Yeah, so I think we can call that F tier and move on, honestly.
Annoying, because without impetuous, I think they'd be A tier easy. Like, they're just, like, I think they're just, it's weird.
I think for me, they'd probably sit pretty similar to Outriders. Like, I'd be happy to see them. But, yeah, impetuous, it just kills them stone dead. And there's no Black Orcs in Empire, which is, makes sense from a lore perspective, but a real shame if you're trying to control those units. All right, so let's move on. The next one we've got is the Mounted Yeomen. And this is a unit that I kind of first pass when I was really sort of getting into fantasy, and my brain was going like, oh, I've got to find a use for all these units. I was like, I don't understand. What's the point in them? Until I realized that they are a great bunker for a wizard. They have reserve move, which is just the best rule in the game if you want to have a wizard on a horse, and you're playing the faction of horses. So, I mean, they seem pretty solid to me.
Well, I mean, I had no idea they had. Again, this is another unit I haven't actually played. I've played Bretonnians a lot, but I guess everybody's kind of been passing over them. And yeah, I think with the Pillar of Fires and stuff going around at the moment, having something to stop your wizard dying to a pillar is really important.
Yeah.
2 level 2s of the last event. Die to Pillar Fire. The RTT I went to on Saturday. Couldn't Pash get an absolute godsend one. Like through because I fleed and ended up lining up. It was Shade, Crossbowmen, level 2, Dark Riders, level 4. But yeah, I think that's a reserve move. Actually, I mean, I would think that's an easy top B, easy, even A. If you'd probably argue, I think.
I think I want to put them in A, but I can't because you just don't see them. I've seen them a couple of times in Grand Army lists that weren't being
Yeah.
like the most meta Grand Army lists, and I was genuinely really impressed by them. But the problem is you've got a real points crunch in Bretonnia because you're like, I'm going to spend 1,000 points on characters, might not even include a caster, and then I'm going to go Peg Knights War Machines. That's probably the list.
That's kind of the thing. The Peg Knight War Machines thing. It's kind of like it's kind of the same with like the threat overload. Like you might not need a wizard bunker because your opponent legitimately can't dedicate anything to hunting your outcast wizard at the back of the board because you've got all these characters with Pegasus Knights in your base. There's nothing, it's going to be weird for somebody to actually go for that. I mean, because they've got to kind of be really reactive when you're playing against them, and that's. But then I don't. I think also as well is Outcast Wizards on foot, put them in the yeomen guard, who are really nice.
Yeah. I think for me, like, and Jordan says, Jordan says, could you build around them? You 100% could, Jordan. Here's the thing: I don't know if it's worth building around them. That's the issue I'm having with them. Thank you very much, Tanoka. Very, very kind. You mounted yeomen kind of get pushed out by Peg Knights, like everything else. Yeah, that's super reasonable. So, you know what? I think for now they sit at the bottom of A because they are good. You just don't see them because something else is better. And I do try, like, especially when we're talking about like infantry and stuff, we feel like this is objectively good as infantry, but you're comparing it to other stuff. So I think we start them at the bottom of A, and when we see the rest of the tier list, maybe we move them down. We'll see how we go with that one.
Think about various. Well, maybe if there's a Pegasus getting there and they have more of a sort of grand army and having more of a sort of blocks of knights supporting trebuchets, they'd probably be much, much better because they can do 2 jobs at that point: charge, redirect, and the bunker. Well,
yeah. Ors points out they're just fine as like a minimum size unit for harassing war machine hunting and redirecting, and that's super fair. Yeah. Like that's all true. So yeah, I think let's go bottom of A because I really like this unit. You just don't see it all that much because there's something that's really, really efficient in that book. So we'll leave them there and move on. Speaking of something that's really, really efficient, what are your thoughts on Glade Riders?
I think they're absolutely. I mean, I'm not quite jealous. I'm not as jealous against them as a lot of Dark Elf players probably are because I like Dark Riders a lot, and I think there's a lot of advantages to Dark Riders, namely the armor save and the points. They are cheaper.
Yeah,
but Glade Riders are just amazing. You can do poison shots. Are they the ones with reserve move?
Yeah, 0 to 1 per 1,000 points. So you can have 2 units with reserve move. You can give them drilled as well if you want. Just because, like, I take a unit to like shuffle my combat lords on stags around. So I give them a Vanguard banner, which just a great banner to be able to have on a cavalry unit. And then they're, in marching column and you drilled and you either march or charge. It's, pretty fantastic. But they are made out of tissue paper.
Yeah. You can put them in skirmish.
Yeah, you can put them in skirmish.
But I'm starting to like false memories. I'm like, you had them in skirmish last time you played.
You're like, I'm not as jealous as most Dark Elf players, and then you're like, wait, hold on, I'm remembering all of the rules. Fucking, I want this unit.
No, there's another unit. There's another unit. I'm incredibly jealous of. We'll get to that. All right. Yes. I think it's. I think they're S. Like, I mean, they're at least top of A, probably S tier. I mean, I don't know why you would take them. I think you can fill that entire core out with so many obnoxious units like the Scouts and the Goyd Riders, but I think any Wood Elf army that doesn't have a unit Goyd Riders is worse for it, because it opens up your Stags, it opens up your mounted Wizards. There's not really much else to say other than, I mean, I've seen some people go for like poison shooting on the Scouts and all the other stuff, and then have them have like armor piercing ones, and then
ignores cover and penalties. I think maybe like the combination.
Yeah,
I think just poison is always best on them. Like anything that's not got a really good ballistic skill, it's just going to be poison.
If you want to get through armor, just take elementals and the war familiar and just do it that way. My opinion. And then the poison, you've got both. But yeah, it's just there's nothing. It's kind of, they're kind of boringly good, to be honest. They just do everything you kind of want from a Wood Elf army. It's kind of like 100% their wins in their play style.
Yeah, I own a Wood Elf army that I have started painting and very quickly stopped painting because I'm bored of playing them already. That's kind of the.
Yes. As I was saying, I was actually tempted by Wood Elves at the start of the edition, and I'm like, after playing Dark Elf, I'm just like, there's no point. There's too many different play styles. Try first before going to do another more annoying elf
A better
army.
version of the same list. Yeah, no, that's super reasonable. So yeah, I think bottom of S is probably reasonable. Again, we'll see if we need to shift them around, but it's yeah. Jordan says, if you wanted that playstyle, you go back to being miserable in 40k. No, I want that playstyle. It's just that playstyle doesn't make me work for it. Like, I want you to never charge me, and I want to table you while losing no units at all. But I want to have to sweat to do it. And if I'm doing it with Wood Elves, I'm not sweating to do it. I'm just doing it. So doing it with Skaven is significantly more fun. But also, yes, I'm having a lot of fun playing with units that actually have charge arcs and limited movement and play by the rules of the game, which is good for me. I've got to eat my greens as well as just having all my snacks. Do you want to take Sister of the Thorn?
Yeah. Sister of the Thorn are every single time I've played against Sisters of the Thorn, they've got one more thing that makes them, that I didn't know they had, that makes them even better. Do you know their leadership 9?
Yeah.
Where's leadership 9?
Yeah.
Why? Oh, every F that's a unit is leadership 8, apart from maybe Cold Whites and Dragon Princes. And
it's because it's the equivalent of the heavy cavalry. They've got a 4-up ward save. Did I mention they have a 4-up ward save?
They have a 4-up ward save that works against everything. That's very good. It's
2 Dark Elf players seethe talking about the better elves.
It's literally one better than absolutely everything to do with the and the thing is that they fit in perfectly with what you want to do with them, which is put down a pillar of fire, because then you're not, and then you can go around shooting the javelins, which are poisoned and armor piercing as well.
AP1,
AP1, yep. It's just not armor bane.
And even better, they have move and shoot. So you cast your spell, Pillar of Fire, at which point remains in play. You never have to cast it again, assuming it doesn't get dispelled. Cool. Yep. I'm going to sit in marching column. I'm going to go 24 inches. I'm going to just chuck some javelins at you. Oh, you're a large target? I chuck 5 javelins. Oh, you're on a hill? I chuck 5 javelins. Oh, I'm on a hill? I chuck 4 javelins. It's so easy to set up. It's not even fair. They're a very, very silly unit. That rat bastard says that's what you get for playing the objectively wrong elves. Yeah, no, I co-sign that.
I understand what they've tried to do with Wood Elves, and because they don't have sort of heavy cap, so they've got to give them something.
Yeah.
Make reaching. Make the Dryad better. Do it that way. Not have something that's like, that gives them something else to do. Don't just give them something that weeds 100% into the play style. Yeah. Probably when I'm not seen it happen before, and don't begrudge Wood Elf when using them, because they're that good. It's they're kind of holding the army up a fair bit themselves, to be honest. It's just what was the annoying thing that they have there? So I'm sure.
Well, let me just go through, because we should, as 2 Dark Elf players, we should talk about the fact that they're just better than Doomfire Warlocks, because I think I might burst if I have to wait all the way down to there.
Better wars, the wars. Yeah, that's the thing. Battle magic, the war that is designed to be used by level 2s, but uses its casting values.
Yep, that's a good one.
You have. It's like, and then you have the bad matchups where maybe Pillar Fire won't do too much. Well, just switch to Fireballs. Switch to Wind Blast.
Yep. You could even take Plague of Rust if you wanted to. I don't think that's usually the right choice, but like occasionally you're just like, oh, hold on, My opponent's like all T4 with 3 up and 2 up saves, so I'm just gonna take a couple of Plague of Rusts here, and then all my poison shooting does a lot more.
I've taken a buff and then I've taken I think a hex and the enchantment styles on warlocks, and it's like even with warlocks, even though a situation of emergency is out the same as long as warlocks aren't in there with anything else, you don't tend to reliably do it. So it's like it's really bad, it's just like whereas the pillars just so many points and just could be all over the board and stuff. I don't really think you would
yeah. So to go through, basically, from the top, they have better laws. They have better ward save. They've got a 4-up ward save against everything instead of a 5-up ward save against non-magical. They have better weapons. They've got the Blackbriar javelins. They have inbuilt poison, which I think, to be fair, the Doomfire Warlocks have, but I think they just have it on themselves. They
have it. They don't have the FAQ. They FAQ'd it, so it doesn't affect the horses.
Okay. Well, as far as I'm aware, they haven't FAQ'd it. Yeah, they haven't FAQ'd it, so it doesn't apply to the Wood Elf stags. So they've got poisoned horns, I believe. Yeah. So you've got all that. Then what else have they got? You've got better leadership. Anything else that I'm missing off the long list? Because there's definitely more.
The thing, apart from just sort of like general, like.
I go on. It's so much easier to cast with them because the way that it works, they cast at unit strength 2. If you have a sergeant and a banner, you cast at unit strength 2. If you have a sergeant, you cast at unit strength bound level 1.
I knew there was something else.
Doomfire Warlocks, you have to be unit strength 5 and have a sergeant to cast at level 2. As soon as you take 1 wound, you cast a bound spell level 1. Whereas the Sisters of the Thorn can be down to 2 models and still cast at that bound spell level 2. Another just bit of rudeness.
And you also put down 2 models because you got better word save. It all just ties. It all just it. I'm not sure.
Imagine selling your Soul to Chaos to be the strictly worst caster cavalry. Yeah, you got him there. You've got him there.
I mean, it would in the last edition, it was the exact opposite. Like Warlocks 4+ save, and then and then the Sisters still had it. Had stud 4 up, but they lost it to magical attacks, so they've just done a flip. I don't know why they wouldn't keep them in the line with each other, because I think even if Warlocks had all the stuff the Sisters have, they still wouldn't be as good because they have access to the lore that's best for level 2s.
Yeah.
Just because of the cast values.
So Or says, here's a random rules question that just got asked of me that has to do with Sisters. Can the unit champion of a Sisters unit use the assailment spell that they chose into a challenge? I think no, because the units cast it, not the character. Yeah, I don't think it can, because it doesn't say that the your leaning is no. It doesn't say that the sergeant casts it. It just says that the unit casts it, and the unit isn't attacking the challenge. It's just the sergeant who is. So I would say no, you can't. That would be my read. But there we go. There's one thing that Sister of the Thorn can't do. Don't worry, Doomfire Warlocks can't do it either. So, sucks to suck. So we can just comfortably put them up there at the top of S. And then we've got another one, which we have talked about already on the Heavy Cav, because Wild Riders are like the Heavy Cav of Wood Elves. But Wild Riders, how do you feel about these bundles of ridiculous levels of attacks?
I love Wild Riders on the pure, I think, because they were a unit that existed before 2010. If it existed after that, I'm less keen on it, but it's kind of just the old nostalgia thing. It's kind of like, I think they're good. I think they're just not what Wood Elf Wars want. I think they're like, I genuinely, like, if I had somebody I played with was ask if they would to use Wild Riders, I'd probably just tell them, and they were honestly just going to listen to me. I always say no, because I tend to fill my armies up with enough chaff that those Wild Riders will be charging something they don't want to charge turn 1.
Yeah.
And I'll be scoring points.
And like, yes, you can like screen them off with, whatever chaff you've got. Wood Elves don't really have cheap screening units. Like, that's not a great thing to bring for Wood Elves. I can't think of what I'd want to.
It's it's kind of like where you screen in when you can just have screens that do you're screening your screens. You know what I mean? It's all scouts and it's all stuff that doesn't matter if it gets charged anyway. But it's not expensive to throw away. But you're just avoiding. And it's not really. They don't really. I haven't really seen many Weed Up players redirect other than use their trees to block the line of sight and stop the charges that way.
Yeah, that'll do it.
It's just. I think honestly, if you like the models, you can use them. You can definitely do well with them. One unit, probably, I would never go more than one unit, just because it's too many. It's easy. A lot against a good player, they're 3 points.
So
That's just kind of it.
Here's my take on them. I don't think I can use them well. I haven't practiced with them. I don't really know how to approach them. I think there's going to be a very small handful of people who are going to be able to get a lot of use out of them. And I think right now, they're not necessarily how you should look at building around Wood Elves. But when the journal comes, if there's more of like a sort of hammer and anvil style available to Wood Elves, I could see them being really good. If you have them as like a second line of, you line up something to bait in charges, that dies, and then you've got Wild Riders 12 inches behind them. At that point, I can see some use for them. So I'd say right now, C, just because I think they're so narrow in what they do, and it's so hard to get them doing it.
I wasn't wanting to be that harsh, but you're right. I mean, it's kind of like I say, I've got a real personal preference for that because I'm like I like combat armies. I like doing lots of damage, and they also have they do something that probably going to end up praise another unit that's slightly along this list, which is trade up really well. But
I don't know that they do. They're pretty pricey.
Yeah. No, you're right.
It's what, like 28 points per model, I think.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just it's sad. I think C is absolutely fine. You can get away with one unit in them, and you're going to have to be cautious every round. And it's yeah, Wild Riders. Beastmen would get so much use out of Wild Riders. It was
yeah, I don't even know if I'd want them in Wild Riders because you can bring so much meat in Beastmen that bringing something that is, T3 with a 5-up save and disappears the second you look at it, I'd be like, oh, I could just take Dragon Ogres instead. Like, sure, they're slower and they hit a bit less hard, but they're going to be there next turn as opposed to not being there.
It's kind of weird because there's no. It's made. Some units can be made of paper, like Glider Riders are made of paper, but they're just
never in the open. Always reserve moving behind cover.
Always, yeah. You always they can, yeah. It's they abuse the tree woods and all the stuff you can do with that. It's just the Wild Riders just can't. It's and even then, the lot of combat units was really good as you can kill a unit and then turn before they can't. They're going to be overrunning usually.
Yeah, they're a melee unit that has no control after they kill something, which is terrifying.
It's and for balls everywhere.
Fireball is everywhere, which hurts them a lot. Absolutely. Almost every army in the game can run a Ruby Ring of Ruin. I'm kind of cooling on Ruby Ring, honestly. But like it's still at worst like aggressively okay. And you just expect to see a couple of magic missiles.
When armed with no inherited and then you'll change from on that again. Ruby Rings, I think but that's kind of what makes it boring actually. It's kind of like
because it's only power level 2. I find that it just doesn't go off a lot when you need it.
Yeah, I mean that's it. If points are tight, you don't want something that's a bit of a crapshoot.
Like my floor is it's like decent. So I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm just like, maybe I just don't bother putting it in lists and I feel better about it. Like, especially if you're writing a list where you're like, oh God, I haven't got anyone that really wants to put this on. So I guess I'll take like a cheap goblin character to put Ruby Ring on. And you're like, well, that's a lot of points for
that's kind of like I would be wrong. If you've got 30 points spare on character, you want to take it and go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We've gone through I think we can both say Wood Elves are good elves, right? Because I don't feel like Dark Elves have amnosity. I forgot how to say that word. Amnosity? Ooh, that's not right.
And animosity.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that word, aminosity. With wood elves particularly, it's high elves. So speaking of stinking high elves, Ellyrian Reavers. I think we just go F, right? Because
Yeah.
boo.
Wait, I've got a lot to say about Ellyrian Reavers.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
don't know why they feel as bad as they do.
I agree. On paper, they should be good.
On paper, they're in line with the other two, at least for points wise, because like they don't have as much.
Jordan's just getting taught to speak English by a Scotsman. That's absolutely fine. That's I'm open to that. This is all people are welcome, even the ones that make fun of me.
It's because we get so much practice with having every time we call up for help fix something like our internet or something, we have to do our Scottish phone voice. Don't even like limit.
Yeah.
You've got that routine about it.
Oh yeah, so you've got
Hello.
that, and then I'm from the northeast where we've got all the call centers. So between the two of us, we've got all the experience.
Yeah. Except for you're having technical problems, which is bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Ellyrian Reavers. Oh, Ginger Steve, do you think these tier lists skew somewhat with the idea of teams format? Yes, 100%. You're messing about building a bunch of teams lists and thinking about how skew some of them might be. Yeah, 100%. You can write. So Dark Riders are good. If you wanted to write a full Dark Elf Avoidance list, you probably don't go more into Dark Riders, but like you that just takes away any other core. So I'm biased towards Dark Riders, but if you're playing towards like a full avoidance list, for example, which is strong in teams, if you want to try and go for like that 8-12 loss into a really hard push army, you can just go like, cool, 500 points in core. You're probably not going to score anything, or you might get like a quarter of one of the units, and that sort of like dynamic. You can go really heavy into one style.
It's kind of like because you can pretty much, if you're the way that I'm a team for, but I've been for Jason like this Scottish ATC team, and one of the guys I played for all the time in Bretonnian, pretty was closer to you actually. He played at work a lot how it works and stuff, but you can even take something like Wild Riders as an example. If you're up against has no shooting and real slow, Wild Riders actually tear an army. You actually, I mean, there's better units to do that.
Yeah.
But like chaos, but you could definitely. I think the tier was completely different. I don't even think you could even transfer anything over it because it's just some of things that.
Yeah, maybe a teams list tier list is something I'll have to look at doing. I don't know if it's because you're leaning forwards, but you're breaking up a little bit when you're talking. So maybe just try.
Is that better or just
that sounds great? Yeah, I'll let you know if it's any issues again. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I thought you froze there. My mic's it's quite the moment I'm like back here, it stops, and then when I'm here, it's works normal. So it's just
trying to find that nice middle ground. Fantastic. Yeah. All right. Yeah. No, I think teams definitely changes things, but as Jordan says, it tickles the list building ADH brain even harder than normal because you got to think about things in a different way. Can't tell if you say
I don't want to play.
Oh,
just move on. No, I'm the other side. I'm northeast. I'm Aberdeen, so it's pretty insulting actually. It's, above the central belt. Yeah,
excellent. Well, before we start some sort of intercity beef, let's talk about actual Ellyrian Reavers because you said you had a lot to say about them.
Yeah, they're the cheapest. They seem to be. They start out pretty much the cheapest of the three high elves, dark elves, and Wild Riders, Wood Elves. They've got access to feigned. They've got access to feigned flight, which is a rule I think I would love on Dark Riders. But you can scout them. You can do a lot of the same things with it. You just look, but I never see them really that often. Maybe one or two, maybe one unit or so. And I think it's just the fact that they only fire one shot and their bow isn't. You can't give them poison. You can't have two shots. I know a lot of the time, like when you're shooting, if you moved and you're shooting kind of maybe a long range or short range, basically hitting on fives. I think 4 if you hit 4 if you're hitting on 4s and 5s with the Dark Riders, mathematically the Ellyrian Reavers do the same amount of damage, and yet in game it never seems that way. And I think it's just because sometimes you roll 6 hits with Dark Riders and you can't do that with 5 shots. It's kind of like
Yeah. I
right.
mean, so as well, the repeater crossbows do have armor bane 1, which a lot of the time you're going to be wounding on like a 5 at best. So half of your wounds are going to be coming in at AP1, or if you're if you're shooting anything with a T5 or better, you're like, oh, just fish for 6s. Oh, hey, your dragon has to take 4 saves at AP1, and then they take 2 wounds. They're really sad. You're just not doing that with the Ellyrian Reavers. They've got less range. You said they get Feign Flight, but I don't think they do. I think that's not a rule they get access to, unfortunately, unless it's on a banner.
I don't know. I've been.
You're just seeing if
Honestly,
I'm
I
paying
think
attention.
I'm getting a lot of my information about the Reavers from talking who had the best fast cav about 7 months ago, and I'm pretty sure people got a lot of things wrong back then. So I probably just thought they had it.
No worries. Yeah, so they can have scouts and skirmishers. But so you start off at 16 points. If you want to give them short bows, you get up to 18. If you then want to give them, you can replace the spears with short bows. But I actually really like having the cavalry spears because it gives you that sort of flexibility. So you're 18 points base. Then you're going to go. You'd probably want to have skirmishers. Skirmishers on fast cav is just very, very good. So that takes you up to 19. You don't have to take scouts, but you've got to
read the rules for us. Thank you. But
yeah, you there's no Feign Flight, no reserve moves. Yeah, that's true. They don't have a move and shoot penalty on short bows, but conversely, they're always going to have a long range penalty because they're hitting anything above 9-inch range. Yeah, 6-up save. They don't have shields, I guess, just because they're not modeled with them, which is a real shame.
Yeah.
So they're just a little bit worse in every respect, which is sad, and I just don't like them.
Yeah, it's kind of like I just feel it's just one presence. I think C tier is just I'd like thinking this B tier if one of those things wasn't true. E's B tier because fast cav. Thing is, with fast cav is inherently a good unit. Like a lot of the time, as long as you're cheap, the units are good because you can just
typical dark elf slander. Yeah. It's true, but also this is true. I think they're just not quite there.
Yeah, gone. It's just there's no presence, I guess, compared to their units.
Yeah,
I like them. Yeah, just fuck it.
Yeah,
let's go for that.
Cool. They're way worse than Pistoleers. I disagree because you can still use them, and Pistoleers, I don't think you can use. I think Pistoleers you just lose control of. Ellyrian Reavers, you can at least still use. And yes, their shooting's anemic, but they still do have that, ballistic weapon skill 4, single attack on the charge at strength 4 AP1, which is not awful because then you've got the horse kicks to back them up. So you can use them as cheap skirmish to deal with war machines, which is fine.
Yeah, the reason I would put them above Pistoleers is you have that somebody take big massive unit of blood knights. They've charged in. They're looking to charge something offensive in your their next turn. You can put the Ellyrian Reavers in front of them and redirect those blood knights. You can't reliably do that with Pistoleers because they might just turn into it and die.
Yeah. They're also, I think, the cheapest unit you could put in front of a dragon princes for Impetuous. No, that's not true. You could put an eagle in front.
That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Great Eagle is just better shafts than these guys. Just so you
Yeah. I think I like them more than Wild Riders, but it's also not that deep. It's fairly similar. All right, let's move on. Do you want to talk about Spider Riders?
Yep.
You got any big thoughts on Spider Riders?
I like Spider Riders. I have some under my bed from when
that's where spiders live.
Yep. Probably more down there in. Oh, I'm gonna sleep tonight. Cheers.
Dance Commander. That's a fantastic name. Sorry, just to interject. I do enjoy having a new best name, and I think Dance Commander, you have the new best name of the channel. Glad to see you. Also, you left a comment. House ruling Pistoleers don't have Impetuous to see how they fare. That sounds good for House, because then you can actually see them on the tabletop. Yeah. Cool. All right. Yes, you were saying about Spider Riders.
Yeah, back in 6th edition, it was amazing because you could actually use your pistols in combat. So you got the strength 4 and the AP in that pistol was really good and it's really fun. But then they changed it in 7th, just the 2-hand weapons. They've never went back. I really like that. I like that from my old as well. To be honest, that would be just
cool.
Yes.
All right, so Spider Riders, they are reasonable. They've got inbuilt poison. Obviously, orcs and goblins have a banner that can give them poison as well, so they get poison on 5-up, which is nice. They have short bows, so you can do shooting shenanigans with them. You can do a TMP Death Star with them. You probably shouldn't. You should just use normal goblins because they're like 12, 13 points, something like that for a Spider Rider, whereas a goblin is about 4, so significantly less efficient there, and also just a lot squishier. But they do come with poison natively. They have got 2 attacks because 1 comes from the spider. They are 12 points plus 1 for short bows, and they come with shields and nothing else. They're fine. I think again the big problem with them is they have impetuous, so they just struggle to do anything other than run at your opponent, and they're not a great melee unit.
I guess the one saving grace is you can well invest in impetuous with the Orcs and Goblins army. So
true,
taking it closer to your general, probably wiring, but probably you can get a lot of reliability out of them. They're much more reliable than they were when I was used to use them when I was when I was playing Orcs and Goblins through 6th and 7th edition. So, in my opinion, they're better. Probably, I'm going to think they're better than the actual artists in the grounds that can actually stop them from just they just don't roll them and stop moving for.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think there's not much more to say there other than what's the reason. Yeah, I don't feel top of C. Yeah, it's because you can potentially quell. I can't really disagree with that. There's nothing much more to say about that. I feel a lot of people I feel like I've been writing lists of goblins, and used to always include wolf riders, spear riders, or chaff, and haven't been doing that. And I don't feel the list is any worse for it because you can kind of goblin units as chaff, fanatics, kind of people that way. But it's I don't hate them. I don't think you could ever ruin a list by taking them, but they don't have that liability that Light Cav needs. When you talk about earlier with the Pistoleers, it's just
I think for me, they sit in C because of the existence of wolf riders who are the same but just better. They are cheaper. They are they can buy reserve move. They can buy feigned flight if you want it. Just they do the same job but better, in my opinion.
Yeah, faster as well. 2 extra bits of movement on them.
That's true. Can I get you to sit back a bit, bud? Because you're breaking up again. I think maybe you're just a little bit past the point of the microphone, so we'll see if that helps at all.
Sorry, is that working there?
Yeah, I think that's good. If you.
I'm speaking into. I'm probably speaking into the laptop. Yeah, sorry, I'm not.
That's okay.
Expert.
Perfect. Well, that seems to have done it. But I think if we've got the Spider Rider here in C, and then we probably put the Wolf Rider in B, and I'd say above the Outriders, because I think there's legitimate reasons to run them. And sometimes you have to, especially if you're running Nomadic War, and you go, cool, I've got 500 points, and I can take a whole 1 unit of Orc Boar Boys, but I don't really want to put 500 points into a single unit, because then it dies.
Yeah, I mean, they're good. They're just you don't, in the comments there, the poison attacks with Spider Rider doesn't actually help you because you're not taking these units to kill things. You're taking them just hopefully get charge off in a war machine or just get away from there, just take a hit or something and just be It's very hard now to get wizards with having stuff. I don't know. It's people have sort of laced up a little bit to certain things.
Yeah, I found that I've never won a game because of Spider Riders. I have lost games because of Spider Riders because their impetuosity goes off, and then they charge forwards, and then the dragon that I have outmaneuvered kills them and turns around, and I am very, very sad. And we could say that's user error, but because of that, I've got to say, I don't want him.
Yeah, if you can't, if someone hurts you like that, you can't forgive them for a long time. So
No, absolutely
I
not.
won't disagree.
And yes, the same thing happens with Wolf Riders, but Wolf Riders don't have poison shots, so I'm not tempted to fire their terrible short bows. So I feel okay about, fast
Yeah,
cav pivoting them so they can't see anything and be impetuous charging.
that's actually true. Like, it can be baited into doing things that's like, if you get all your buffs off, you can then charge into the drag and be like, yeah, this is great, and then it doesn't happen, and you lose your unit as opposed to
Yeah,
um,
yeah. Or the game, just when you give someone a reform after they've killed your unit, which is fun for all the family. Cool. So now we've got something that's completely different, which is Squig Riders. And I am not super high on them, but I know some people are. And that's because you can hide them and then charge with random movement. And they do have a good random movement. It's 3d6, which is solid, honestly. It's pretty good. They've got impact hits. They've got strength 5, AP1, armor bane 1 attacks, 2 of them each. They're pretty cheap at 12 points per, but they are also made out of tissue paper, which really concerns me.
Yeah, I like them.
Mm.
I'm thinking of playing versus goblins in the near future. Just get because I have everything you kind of need to make a good art list. Just collecting for so long, and I and I go. I want to use a Squig or Squiders because I have them and they look good. Like, I don't think they're bad. I don't. I know. Sure, it's going to turn up in 2 seconds now. Who's talking about goblins? He all manages to disappear. But he was also the way he's using these. He's from the behind units and then uses the random movement to bring it round and combat that way, which can make up for a lot of the fragility.
Yeah.
So I think they're really good in that sense. If you know what you're doing, I don't think you can put them down on the table and be like, yeah, I'm going to put these in there and win, because you won't. Because if you get into the middle of the board, people will magically sell them off.
Yeah, you've got to do something with them. I think they're playable though, right? So I'd put them probably B tier.
I think B tier's a good idea. Just for now, yeah. If someone was to give a reason why A tier, I would probably be very sympathetic to that due to bias in me. But yeah, I think.
Yeah. As Jordan says, you can't put them too far down, or Dave's gonna come for me, which is fair.
They're not
That is
C
how
tier.
you.
They're absolutely not C tier at all.
They're not. I like them in B tier.
It's they fill an awkward space because you buy the Black Orcs, you buy the 2 Doom Divers, the level 4s, the wiring, and then you're kind of left with this like 400-point blob, and you can definitely fit them in there. But then you could also make a nice big units of Boar Boys and Wolf Chariots as well. You could do all sorts of like things with them. So they're kind of in that sort of subjective
one of the options you
points
can take.
range. Yeah, so I think that's so. Yeah, I don't think anything that goes in that part is properly like A tier or S tier, just because you can basically do without them. But yeah, they're cool.
That's fair. Cool. All right, let's move on to Marauder Horsemen. Marauder Horsemen are Warriors of Chaos. They are cheap and cheerful. You can give them a market cord and flail, and they're strength 5, 8, to attack strength 5, AP2. That's just good. It's cheap. Yeah, it's frenzy, but they're also like 75 points or something if you tilt them up that way, and they're just like a little fire and forget missile. I really like them.
I love Marauder Horsemen. I get sad when people don't put them in their army. I think you're making your army worse if you don't take a unit of them. Even though there's plenty of really good Chaos armies that haven't run them, and because got Forsaken in there, you've got and Chaos Knight and stuff as well. You can do stuff with that, but they just. I mean, there's Dave. I told you, he's here. Is that Dave?
Yeah, there he is.
He just man. I think he just got twitch in the back of his neck, and it's like.
Yeah. No, Marauder Horsemen, they're great. They're really
But
solid.
yeah,
Like I say, 75 points for 10 attacks on a unit there at strength 5 AP2. Yes, you can frenzy bait them, but they might actually catch you because they're movement 8 with
yeah,
Swift Stride, which is just, solid. You can
yeah.
also
Well,
skirmish them
the
if
good
you
thing
want
is,
them to. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, the good thing is with Frenzy in the Warriors of Chaos army is you have cheap warhounds, so you can actually block. You can control them a lot easier. And you're not losing out as much points if you do hit something and die. If
Yeah.
it does go terrible, I mean it's not ideal, but I think these guys are like I'd be tempted for S just because they just for the points.
Yeah,
But
they're
then
good, but they do have limitations. Whereas, like, if you're looking at Sisters of the Thorn, for example, I
yeah,
don't think they have limitations. Like, they're so good. I think they're a very good A tier unit in my eyes, but I think I'd struggle to justify putting them higher than that when like if you're comparing them to a bunker that reserve moves all your casting
yeah,
units and never get shot, or
yeah,
the
of
killer
course, yeah.
spam. Yeah, but that's just
They're
saying
probably
like
just one of the
they're
best.
not game breaking. They're just good.
If you put it, you can they can trade ball with them, right? They're really but I mean, if you do go up against them, I mean, you don't have it. They don't have a target. Yeah, they can go a bit like a waste if you're shooting Marauders with them. But you can like get those. If you get those strength five hits, strength five hits on certain things, you can just tear through stuff and score loads of points, or they die. It's kind of like yeah. So I think A tier is probably fair
Yeah.
enough. Actually, I just get excited about them because they're just one of my favorite units. Just
Yeah, that's reasonable. I think I really like them in Wolves of the Sea because you can just take MSU and yes, like everything you're looking to take there with the Berserks and the whatchamacallums have frenzy, but it doesn't really matter because your entire army has frenzy. So either they're baiting your entire army and you just lose because of that, or you hit something and it just crumbles because you've got such a high volume of attacks.
yeah, they are actually one of the best units to cast Battlelust on. So
Sure.
but that war is a bit you don't really see a lot of it at the moment, and you're kind of I like dark magic, but you're really damaging your output chaos for taking it. So I'm probably
Mm,
it's a bit of a shame because it's fun lore to use, but when you can take like four magic missiles and just shoot your opponent off the
yeah, yeah. Let's talk about something that is a great target because you probably want to give Mark Corn to the Marauder Horseman,
yeah
which means that you're kind of losing half the battle loss buff. So instead, what if you took Marauder Huskarls? Because I don't feel like I want to give them the Marker Corn. They have 2 attack
yeah
space because they've got Furious Charge. But if you
yeah
could give them on demand Fury and Hatred, that unit
yeah
slaps real hard.
yeah that's yeah Scarls are also a really good unit. I haven't put too much thought into it because Wars this Sea are one of those if I think too much about them I'll lose a lot of money because I like
That's
they're
fair.
really cool. It's 100% sort of thing I liked. They're a really cool army. I think the only problem with Marauder Horse Carols is they're special, but I don't think you would that would. I think they're still quite cheap in comparatively just to go up against skin wolves and the
Dragon
like.
Ogres.
Which
Skin Wolves and Dragon Ogres, that's the big issue.
yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing. You're not. You've already taken loads of strength five not guys with loads of attacks that are just super cheap. You're kind of just going more into that.
Mm.
Uh, they have drilled though. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, you
Um,
say they're super cheap. By the time you tool them up, because they're 18 points base, a point for
yeah,
flail, a point for shields, a point for heavy armor, because you probably want them to survive
yeah,
if you're putting some commitment into them. And then if you're giving them that, you probably give them drilled. So then you're up to what, 23 points
yeah.
per model, and that's before you even think about giving them a mark.
That's right. I was kind of
Uh,
meaning, yeah, that's kind of mean cheap in terms of like the amount of damage you get because they kind of hit as hard as a lot of hev cav for
yeah,
less points, which is kind of what you want. But yeah, it's I think they're really good. I don't think they're better than standard Murder Horsemen because they're in the core. Um, but
Yeah, I think for me, it's somewhere either top of C or bottom of B, which sounds wild given that we've been talking them up, but like I just can't see myself putting them in a list. That's the problem I'm having.
It's the doing the thing, the whole everything else in the army does is kind of problem. Is kind of like Light Cav is often where you find a lot of utility in your list to assist the more smacky wacky things, and Huskarls are kind of stuck in that middle ground where if you want a unit of them in your army, definitely not worse for it, but realistically, skin wolves and Razorgors would take points.
Yeah, I think so.
They can take magic missile to the face, which is Huskarls cross the event horizon for value for a magic missile. You know, that's the best of saying it.
Yeah,
120 points. Ugh, that's hurt.
Yeah, and it's they are T4 with a 4-up save, but it's you're right. It does start to get a little expensive there for them. The great rules though, counter charge, furious charge, swift stride, all of that stuff's good. Warband as well, getting those rerolls on a move 8 unit is quite nice, but they're just a little bit squishy and a little bit pricey. Like it's if they were a bit tankier or a little bit cheaper, somewhere in the middle, I'd be a lot more excited about them.
Probably do really well against a full MSU and sort of other army, but probably not most optimal. We'll see, which I don't think we've really seen yet, but I'm sure it's coming somebody on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So speaking of things that we're not excited about, Centigor. God, I hate Centigor so much. What an absolute disgrace of a unit.
I love Centigor, as in
you want them to be good, but they're not. That's the
they are genuinely one of my favorite pieces of units from a battering perspective, and in the old model they're bad, but I was just absolutely. Actually, I don't know what they're thinking when they were writing this unit. They're right. They come out about 18, 19 points basic. 4 you have to buy them ambush, and all the special rules actually make them vaguely interesting. And the amount of barriers you have to go across to make this unit actually do something. Because in theory, if you'd buy them ambush, get great weapons, ambush them, they can come over in 2. Your opponent can't sell them for whatever reason, and then they fail the roll the 1 to roll 6 to get frenzy, and then they trust something in the back and decimate it. That's going to happen once. Like you play Beast, that will happen to you once. Not once event, just once.
Just once.
Like I think other than that, they're just no armor. Just
no, it's not ideal.
You can't even it's actually it's kind of weird because like even on like paper they look as bad as they are. It's just you can't like be Beastmen, or you take an army that's got high toughness, high armor, and you kind of push that forward, and it kind of negates a lot of you in on a lot of attacks your opponent has. A lot of strength 3 can't do much to it. When you're in that matchup, you call that come towards you. You always look for you can score points, and if you have a unit Centigor in your army, they'll shoot those and they'll kill those and they'll score lots of points because 125, 30 points for 5 of all the grades. If I remember correctly, and it's just a waste of time. The drunken fun, but it's just.
Sorry to cut you off there, bud. It's a lot of audio issues. So it's all right. It's. I think also you might be having some internet problems because you're cutting in and out even when you sat back there. So what I'd say is, thank you so much for having me on. I would love to have you back on at some point. Maybe we'll do something pre-recorded or something so we can sort those audio issues. But I will wrap up the rest of this myself, and just because it's cutting in and out and I can see people leaving. But I really appreciate you having me on, and I will. No, don't worry about it. It's I think more internet than you, but we'll wrap this one up, and I'll talk to you in a bit.
I should be in a minute. Yeah, sorry, bye.
No worries. All right. So we'll wrap this one up. Apologies for the audio issues. So we were putting Centigors, I think probably F realistically, and I think they're probably better than Pistoleers, because at least the chance of them going wrong is lower than it is for Centigors. Sorry, for Pistoleers. Pistoleers, it's a 50-50. Centigors, you're going to roll on the drunken. Perfect stuff. All right. So horse archers we've got. Horse archers, I think, are one of the best light cavalry in the game. I would start them off probably in A tier. They're incredible. They've got reserve move built in. They've got, I believe, Vanguard built in as well. Just a really nice, little package that's cheap. You compare them to the skeleton archers, the full, not the skeleton archers. You compare them to the heavy cav version, the skeleton horsemen, who are completely terrible, and you get so much more utility if you want something that move blocks. Obviously, with Arrows of Asaph, you've got some actual plinky shots. I think they're a really solid unit. You're probably not going to pay to give them any upgrades, like a magic standard or countercharge or anything like that. Chariot runners, anything like that. But they are just really solid, cheap, 11 points per model. Definitely worth taking probably 2 units in all of your lists. Better than Pistoleers, what an honor. Yeah, hell yeah. They are absolutely better than Pistoleers. No Vanguard, but Scouts. How did I get that the wrong way around? Skeleton archers that have Scouts, that's the one. Chariot runners are interesting for free. Yeah, so it's Royal Host, I believe, that you get chariot runners for free. Otherwise, you spend a point on it. I think it's decent. I think it's something that you could absolutely sort of play around with. I would probably look at doing it more if you're going for Royal Host, if you want to do something pretty ridiculous, like look at a big unit of chariots or lots of units of chariots. But I'm not sure that I want to pay a point for it, which is maybe a little bit of a downside for them. So if we wrap up, I somehow skipped some of the chaos. This has been meant to be roughly in order, but the Chaos Warhounds, and then we've got Razorgors. Obviously, Chaos Warhounds are one that you can get between Beastmen and Warriors of Chaos. 30 points base for dogs. They're, cheap. They've got no save. You can pay to give them a save, a 6-up armor save. I wouldn't bother. You can pay to give them Vanguard, a point a model. I would bother. That takes them up to 35 points. You can give them poison attacks. Realistically, the way that you're going to be looking at taking these is just, 35 points, a couple of units of those, 70 points for the 2 units, and they're a really good chaff, skirmishy, screening unit, all of that good stuff. Because I play a lot of armies that scout. What a lot of people do is they'll put them on the flanks of their army, screening out the corners of their deployment zone, and then use the Vanguard move to get them closer to where they want them to actually be in game, because you do your scouts, then you do your Vanguard moves. And then after that, you can just sort of move them. They are a bit slow. They're only movement 7, which compared to the vampire counts with their movement of 9 seems odd. But I think we just chalk that up to legacy differences. Jalib says, opinion on poison on warhounds. So poison is good on armies that are going to do damage, like models that are going to do damage. I wouldn't expect warhounds to really ever do damage. Maybe if you wanted to use them as war machine hunters, but I don't know that that's a role that they can particularly fulfill super well. This guy says they're excellent. I agree. Yeah, they're really good. When I'm writing chaos lists, I definitely start with 2 units of them. It's just easy to fit them in. And takes up that core slot, which Warriors of Chaos have like aggressively mediocre core. So yeah, that's about what I'd wrap them up with. I think for me, I would say they're in B tier. I want them in my list, but also if they disappeared tomorrow, I would not be overly upset. Winslow says they're also unlikely to charge anything with high toughness, as they also fail fear checks. That's super fair. The game that I played recently, what did I have in a flank? I think I was playing Warriors of Chaos. I had a unit try to charge a big unit of spearmen. That was it, Graveguard. I was playing into vampire counts. You may have seen the game on the channel. It was the Heralds of Darkness into vampire counts. There was a long line of Graveguard. I wanted to charge them in the flank, and I just failed my fear test, so they didn't get there. Weapon skill 4 is that they can kill some war machines. Perfect. Yeah, thanks for coming back. That is a good shout. It's just difficult to get them there because they're so slow at movement 7. Humans says giving poison to 40 goblins works well. No, you're thinking too small. What about giving poison to 120 goblins? And with that, I feel like the hairs on the back of Dave's neck probably prick up as well. No, I'm sorry. I should have got this one in before I cut you off. So the Razorgor. This is a pretty fantastic unit. It is basically a heavy chariot, but it's 50 odd points, and it's a war beast, so it's weird. I can't say enough good things about the Razorgor. It's super cheap. It comes in core. Obviously, when the edition first came out, before people even really were thinking of talking about rule of 3, rule of 6 in core, depending on how you play it, there was a lot of talk about, oh god, the game's just going to be broken by the Razorgor spam. What if people just ran, 20 individual Razorgor or whatever it is that you go for? We haven't seen that, weirdly enough, but 52 points. You've got a model that's movement 7 with Swift Stride, so it's reasonably fast. It's got impact hits, and so it's effectively a chariot but with Swift Stride. 4 attacks, Armor Bane 1. It's got Foe Render and Primal Fury and Razor Tusks, so you've got a good combination of getting more attacks, getting rerolls, getting some Armor Pen in there as well. Just really, really consistent, and for the points you're paying, really solid. The weird thing about it being a war beast is it's unit strength 1, which is almost never going to matter, but then occasionally does matter and really sucks. T5 with 3 wounds as well, which is not a lot, but given that it is only 52 points, yeah, I'm very happy to see those. I think whenever I see Beastman players who take those, the Tuskor chariots, and then 6 Beastman Gors, that's when I get kind of concerned about what's facing across the table from me. You say Primal Fury. Winslow says, I think 4 single pigs is the sweet spot, but those 4 feel incredible. But what if you just went 40? Has anyone actually tried 40? I think that would be an interesting way to go. It does matter because no panic tests. That is very true. That is very true. They do only have leadership tier 6, so they're probably not passing that Primal Fury test all that much. They can't use the General's leadership. I think there is a way of giving them, there's an upgrade that you can give a character to make them roll using that character's leadership. But unless you're going for a sort of big unit of them or lots of small units and you're supporting them, I don't know that that's super worthwhile. For me, Razorgor, I think probably make it up into the S tier. I can't imagine seeing Beastman lists without seeing somewhere in the realm of 3+, realistically. You could probably get away with 2, but yeah. You can get away with units of 2 pigs and not worry about panic too much. Yeah, that's true, because, oh no, 50 points is running away. That's super fair. Okay. Next up, we've got through all of the basic ones, and we've moved on now to the legacy armies. And the weird thing I noticed about this is that we've got, I think, more war beasts than we've got actual units. So you've got giant rats, 4, 5, it's about equal. But yeah, way more war beasts in the legacy factions than there is in the main army factions. First of all, Hobgoblin Wolf Riders, which is possibly the best unit in an army that doesn't necessarily want to use them. So these are basically Wolf Riders, but instead of just having, downsides like Impetuous, they don't have any downsides. So you see them, you've got a 12-point model. It is still a Goblin on a Wolf, so it's T3 with effectively no save. It's a 5-up save. Upgrades, they've got a weapon skill 2 instead of 3, which makes a big difference in terms of being hit back, less so in terms of your output. You get the Cav Spears free. You have to pay for the short bows, but you can give 0 to 1 unit Feint Flight and Reserve Move for 2 and 1 points respectively. Again, pretty similar there. But what you get is you've got Evasive, so when you're targeted, you can run fall back in good order. Then obviously you get to Swift Stride on top of that, so you can actually go quite a big different distance. You've got Open Order, which is just good. Levies, which is sometimes good, sometimes terrible. But, if your unit gets blown up, it's not the end of the world. We were talking a little bit about having a Ruby Ring of Ruin earlier on. Having a Hobgoblin character in with the Wolf Riders is a great way to have a reserve move Ruby Ring of Ruin. It does get quite expensive, so I've fallen out of love with that, but it is pretty good. Yes, downside requires a Khan. Not terrible, but more points to have to work in. That's true. You do have to take a Khan for each unit, and that is something that stops them, in my eyes, from being an S tier. Maybe even stops them being an A tier. I think they're really solid, but I think I'd struggle to put them too high because of that. And also, they're not core. You do have to take them in special, and you have to take a character that really eats into your allowance. So I think, for me, let's call them B, because if you put them in your list, they're very good, but getting them into the list is a little bit of a limitation. It's just hard to fit them around all of the other things that you want to fit in, because realistically, you're probably going to push towards that 1,000-point characters because the characters are so good. Then you're looking at, do I want to take 1 or 2 steam tanks? Do I then fill the rest with artillery? It's difficult to fill them in. Speaking of things that are difficult to fit into lists if you want to win any games, Seekers of Slaanesh. Now, I think I've told this a couple of times on stream, but I have been absolutely ruined by an army of demons, which was Slaanesh demons. And this was very early on when I was playing, my first forays into competitive Warhammer, and I was playing ogres, and this list absolutely ran rings around me, and the Seekers of Slaanesh were very frustrating. Were they good? No, I was just terrible. I think that's probably more accurate than me saying, oh yeah, no, Seekers are great. So I think for me, what I would say about Seekers is they have potential to be good, but this isn't the right time for them, because I don't know when I'd want Light Cavalry that only have melee. They've got loads of attacks. 21 points is pretty pricey. They do have a 5-up ward against non-magical attacks, so you're kind of paying a premium there. You've got 2 attacks at AP 1, and I think Armor Bane 2 as well. On the Seeker's Piercing Claws, you've got a single attack from the Steed of Slaanesh, but it's a poisoned attack. Great rules. You've got Countercharge. You've got Swift Stride, obviously. They've got Armor Bane on the Steed, which is a little bit of a number with the poison attacks they've got. Weapon Skill 4 on the Seeker, great initiative, as well as being Slaanesh for good initiative. But they're just fast cav that want to punch light infantry in the face. Fast cav that can't flee is weird, 100%, yeah. So that's the big issue that we've got if you've got any undead. I didn't even say that for the Skeleton Horse Archers. That's a very good point that I should have brought up. But Seeker Cavalry, they kind of have one job, and that job doesn't really exist at the moment. You can use them to War Machine Hunt. I'm not denying that. But I think I don't necessarily see a place for them in the current game. If you want something that's fast but punches reasonably hard, I really like Mark of Khorne Furies. You get on the charge, you've got 2 attacks, strength 5, AP 1, which is just really solid. And I think better than the 3 attacks at strength 3 that you've got here. So, and they are cheaper, and they have inbuilt Vanguard, so they are in theory faster. So I think for me, Seekers of Slaanesh go probably top of C, and I don't feel like they're bad. I just don't feel like the game exists in a point where it's worth putting them in. I think that's the difficulty that we're having there. Perfect. There is another unit here, which is the, what are they called? God, I've forgotten the name. The Screamers of Tzeentch. That's it. Screamers of Tzeentch are a unit that I wrote off pretty quickly, and I don't know if I'm wrong to do so. So they're one of those classic units that has a 1-inch move and then fly 9 in this case. So if you play against Bretonnians, you just don't get to use your unit. They're war beasts, and like the Razorgor, they're high investment for what you get. They're on a 40 by 60 base. You've got to take a unit of 3 of them. They're 44 points each. They come in at T4 and 2 wounds, and then a 5-up ward, but no other save. So against a fireball, if a fireball goes off, you're losing 1.5 models, so it takes 2 fireballs to kill them. That's not a great rate there. They do have skirmish, which is nice, gives you opportunity to do some nice charges, but they've only got 2 attacks each at strength 4 with Lamprey's Bite, which is, off the top of my head, I want to say strength -1. And then multiple wounds D3. So I guess they make very efficient War Machine Hunters, but the problem is they die. When they die, they're about twice the points that you want to invest into them. So I think I can't see them being used as a War Machine hunter. Winslow says when your core is already max Furies, it's even harder to fit in the Secrets of Slaanesh. 100%. Yeah. Or maybe it was for the Tzeentch. 44 points is staggeringly high. Yeah. 2 wounds at T4 is just so much. I can't justify it. They have something called a slashing attack. So if you fly over the unit in the remaining moves, so you can't charge, you can't do any other shenanigans like that. For each unit, each model in the unit that goes over it, it takes D3 strength 4 hits with no AP. That's just not amazing, realistically. I can't see a time that I'd ever want to use that. I think it is, the wording isn't clear, but I don't even think you can use Arcane Urgency to move over a unit a second time and then do the slashing attack again. I think it's literally just once per turn. This isn't clear, so if you want to try and make this work, I guess talk to your TO and see if there's anything there. But yeah, I'm super not sold on them. If you could take them as individuals, if you could take them as sizes of 1+, or maybe even 2+, I'd be more interested, but 132 points for 6 wounds at T4 with a conditional 5-up save. I just think that's going to fall apart so quickly, and I'm not sold on them. So for me, Screamers go into. I think I've got to say they're F tier, right? I think they've got to be F tier. I can't see them being any higher than that. Yeah, let's go with that. And you shout at me in the comments if you think that I'm wrong. All right. On to Dark Elves, and I'll have to sing the praises of Dark Elves. Oh, Jordan. There we go. Right. Let's have an argument. Jordan says, come on now. What are you going to try and say? What's your opinion on these? We'll wait. Pistoleers are on their hands and knees begging. Oh, okay. So you're not saying that Screamers are wrong. You're saying that Pistoleers are wrong. You want me to do this, do you? Does this make you happier? Not to be last. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think I do like Pistoleers more than Screamers. At least Pistoleers are a cheaper unit that doesn't do anything or doesn't do their job properly. So we'll go with that. In fact, you know what? I think I like Centigors more. Yeah, perfect. Sated. All right, let's move on. Dark Riders. Dark Riders are fantastic. When I write a Dark Elf list, I have a 500-point core that I put into every list unless it needs to be tweaked. And that list is 3 units of 8 Dark Riders. Why are we going 8? Well, if you're in a multiple of 4, you're less likely to flee when you take casualties. You need to take 3 models. If you want to go from 8 down to 5, then you take the panic. You have to go down to a single model for your opponent to get any points for them. And 8's just really solid. It's not too big to move around the board. It's very consistent. You've got enough shots in there to probably spike a couple of 6s if you're shooting at long range. You don't have poison, you're just going to hit them 6s. That's the realistic thing there. You're going to equip them. They've got cavalry spears base. They've got light armor base. You're going to give them a shield, and you're also going to give them a repeater crossbow. This is just good. The shield is 1 point. How many points are there? I think there's something like 19 points base. They're all in that realm. These sort of elf fast units. Okay, so they start at 16. They become 18 with the repeater crossbows, and they go up to 19 with shields. So you've got 3 units of those. And then you give 2 units, because you're capped at 0 to 1 per 1,000 points for both these rolls. Give 2 units of Fire and Flee and Scouts for a point a model each, and you give both of those units a Musician. That is 500 points. If you have 6 spare points, you give the unupgraded unit a Musician as well. Something we didn't even get around to talking about with Musicians is how good they are. They give you +1 to test if you want to march when you're within range, within 8 inches of an enemy model, or if you're rallying. So rallying on a 9 or marching on a 9 is really nice. Just gives you a lot of consistency there. Obviously also stacked with the General's leadership. Wouter says, controversial opinion, I don't think Dark Rider's that great. It's just the rest of the Dark Elf core is so horrible, they can't compete. That's I don't agree, but I understand where you're coming from. Nis says, I miss why Huskarls got placed in low B, but I'll go back and watch later. I think they're cool. I also think they're cool. I just don't think there's a space for them in the army. That's basically what it boils down to. So if we're talking Dark Riders, you look at them, and on paper, I think they should be really good. Repeater crossbows, they've got 2 shots, the ballistic skill 4, so that takes them taking on 4s natively. They're strength 3, AP 0, armor bane 1. But again, if you're winning on 5s and 6s, half of them are going to be that AP 1, so having a lower AP is not the end of the world there. They come stock with cavalry spears, you buy them all the upgrades, all of that's great. And then you put them on the table, and you roll 3 units, and you kill 4 models, and you go, that doesn't feel very good. And it's not, but it's 500 points that doesn't really die. I find that what I will do is I will scout both units together, typically, and I will try and pepper one, either a flank that can't catch them. So you stand at long range, you stand still, you unleash shots until you have to fire and flee away, which is usually turn 2 or 3. Or if your opponent's got some sort of skirmishing units, you just go, okay, I see you've put your skirmishers down or your scouts down. I'm going to shoot them as well. Yes, if you're shooting into skirmishers, then you're going to be at -1, but just bring like absolute volume of shots to deal with them. I think that's usually where they're best at. What do they do after that? Normally, after that point, they get picked apart by your opponent shooting. You get down to 3 or 4 models. You flee, you rally, you go, okay, cool. Now it's time for me to hide behind a building or to march, 18 inches around the board and maybe get arcane urgency if I really need to hide them. And at that point, they don't give up any points. Your opponent's wasted time trying to deal with them. They've killed, between them 150 points worth of value. You give up no points for them. You're up 150 points. And that's kind of where I think they're really good. And it's like a specific play style for them. But I think when you use them that way, they're very solid. Callum says he thinks the Dark Riders are good on their own. I think that's fair. I was saying that I really like having, when we were talking about Ellyrian Reavers, I like having the Cav spears, so you've got the flexibility. They're not the second coming of Christ, I agree. In the context of light cavalry in core, I really like them. And as always, because they are core, I think I would rate them more highly. I think for me, and this is one that I think people might disagree with, but I know Callum will agree with me, I think they go up in A tier. I think they're really solid. I don't think they're as good as Marauder horsemen. I think they're probably better than mounted yeomen. I think horse archers are probably better just on the basis of they're so cheap and they provide a different role. Jordan says skill cap unit. I like them. I think they're fantastic. But yeah, they are made out of tissue paper and you can't evasive them. So you've got to make sure they stay alive. That's what you've got to do with them. All right. So I know you're in chat, Callum. So let me know where you think the Doomfire Warlocks should go, just so I can see if I agree with you, and I'll talk about them in a second. You say they're awkward to kill and can be lucky with shooting, keep wizard alive. Yeah, all great points. I run a wizard on a dragon, so typically I don't need to use them as a bodyguard for a wizard, but they're a great bodyguard for a wizard. They don't have reserve move, which is a little bit of a shame. It does make me look at my wood elves with jealousy. But yeah, A tier for you as well. Fantastic. Glad we agree on that one. Yeah, they're really good. And I think if you're playing with the list that isn't double dragon, which is like a dragon and then a sorceress on either Pegasus or on just a horse, I think at that point they go even further up in estimation. No, I'm not aiming for S with them. I think what I've said a few times about Dark Elves is they're a book that has very sorry, that just sent me. That rat bastard says, where should they go? Back to Ulthuan to apologize. Yeah, God. Oh, Jesus. That's you got me there. Mike says if they're in Reavers or in minimum but beat. No, Reavers are just worse in every way. They're just like every rule they have is just a little bit worse is the problem. And then also comparatively, you've got better core for Ellyrian Reavers, sometimes much better core if you're going sisters. And then Dark Riders have terrible core to convince them. It's a slander as well. Perfect. Oh, thank you, Callum. So Callum says, talking about the Doomfire Warlocks, his opinion is if he was still on, he'd go with B to wind me up, but realistically, they're a C at most. And yeah, we kind of went through the reasons why they were not great, but yeah, they're just like, you look at the Sisters of the Thorn, who've got a ward save all of the time, and their ward save is better. The sisters have a shooting attack. The sisters have the ability to pick from a better lore. The sisters have better casting because they're casting on, bound spell level 2, even if they drop down to 2 models, as long as your unit champion hasn't died. Just everything about them is really good, and that is fantastic. I can't see a world that I ever want to take up a Doomfire Warlock other than a slightly safer bunker for my wizard. And at that point, I'd be like, okay, if I really want to go for a wizard and I don't want to put them with the Dark Riders, I could see them with Doomfire Warlocks. I think as well, they actively do something. You can just pick a magic missile. You can go for the summoning, which is cast on a 9. So you're only ever casting it if you roll a 7 or better, which on average you do, but it's like not super great. They can cast the summoning, which is decent. Yeah, exactly. We're on the same wavelength there. They struggle to cast the good spell that they've got, or they could pick one of the other spells in Dark or Demonology. It could be a source of Battle Lust if you really needed that in a game, and they do have that flexibility where you can pick as you go, but I just don't ever want to see them on the table on my side of the board. So I think I see more use for them than Seekers, but I just don't think they're great, is where I'd kind of land on those there. And then we're on to Salamanders and Razordons. I'm going to give you a moment just to appreciate what I said, because those are 2 units that you probably haven't seen on the table this edition. I know that I haven't. I was really interested in them, and then I sort of did some maths. I did 2 bits of maths. The first was, how many points are they when you factor everything in? You're like, 75 points is pretty expensive for a salamander. Oh no, it's 90 points because I've also got to take 3 skink handlers. Okay. Razordon pack, that's a little better. 75 points for 1 plus the 3 skink handlers. Sure. That's pricey, but maybe. And then I also did the maths on just the damage. I could maybe see the Razordon packs. I think they are too pricey, but I could maybe see the Razordon packs. So if you're talking about those, obviously you've got beast handlers, which means when shooting attacks come into them, you have got to take after the hit is allocated. To allocate the hit, you roll a d6. On a 1 through 4, it goes to the Razordon. On a 5 or 6, it goes to the Skinks. Skinks are T2 with no save, so they just fall over. Sorry, that's a lie. They have light armor. They have basically no save. The Razordon is a bit tankier. It's T4 with 3 wounds, and it has got heavy armor, which is better. It has aquatic, which is a rule that exists. And you can take them in units, but they're skirmishes. So you've got to be careful about how things would go, because if you go for too big a unit, you might end up ranking up weirdly. I guess it's not too much of an issue because you've got the movement 6. But yeah. Jordan says clean sweep F for lizards. I don't know about that. I don't know. I've got a little bit of a soft spot in my heart for the Razordon. But you know what? I'm going to talk about the Salamander afterwards. I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to put it in F and we'll talk about it later. But I think the Razordon could go a little bit higher. Winslow says, I feel C tier is well, they're fine in a casual game, whereas F is, even in a casual game, they feel awful. I think that's a good characterization, basically, of what's going on there. Which says all the good spells you might want in 9+ or better. Tanako, F for Salamanders, B for Razordons. I'm not quite at that tier of hype for them, but I do like them, and they're going to go higher than F, that's for sure. Existence doing my job for me. Always appreciate it when you do that. He says only 28 likes and 92 people are watching currently. Smash that like. I appreciate you because I forget to do the plugging for my own channel, so very nice for other people to do it for me. Entropy says, do we consider the tournament rules? Are we playing on 72 feet of rivers as Rob has been painting? Weirdly, I don't think this unit actually gets better. I think this unit's worse on the River Army because there were penalties to ballistic skill shooting going over the rivers. Even though they have aquatic, you probably don't want them on the front lines. OGCC says, liked. Hell yeah. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. Jordan says, I heard it was 322 miles of river. Perhaps. I'm not a riverologist, but there was definitely some river there. So I I think Razordons, like the base stat line's interesting. You pay a lot for it, but your weapon skill 3, which is not good. Your strength 5, AP 2 with your Wicked Claws, and you've got 2 attacks. So that's not a huge amount. But for a shooting unit, if you went big on these, let's say you had 3 Razordon, so that's 180 points plus 45 points, so 225 points. You got the Skinks, you got the Razordon. Some of the Skinks will die accidentally to shooting. That's fine. That's where you'd like the hits to go, as long as you don't lose all of them. So you get that juicy leadership 5. And the shooting is okay. It's range 18, strength 4, AP 1, which is solid for Old World. You've got move and shoot, multiple shots D3, and quick shot. They are ballistic skill 4. So again, like the Dark Riders, you're going to be doing D3 shots, hitting on 4s. Something I really dislike about multiple shots is if you roll a 1 on your number of shots, you still shoot at -1 to hit penalty. That feels bad. Can all multiple shots please be, at minimum 2? That otherwise I'm just gonna feel sad. No, I'm sad to see him go. But I if I close my eyes, I can still hear him. With me in spirit. Tanaka says Razordons, they can certainly move and shoot with skink support throughout some AP shots. Yeah, like I think they're interesting. I think they're another one of those units that are like not quite where they want to be, like in the meta right now, but I could see a use for them. They feel like they're not too far off from being there. Right now, I don't think they're there. But, it's if you take 3 of them, you've got an average 6 shots. Let's assume you're shooting at long range because realistically you are. So you've got 2 hits. Oh, God, that's terrible. That's just terrible. It just isn't enough. So really they need to be a brawler unit. And they do brawl kind of okay. Yeah, I don't know. They're just not quite there for me. So I think we'll say worse than Doomfire Warlocks, but like maybe a legitimate reason to take them. Julian says, thanks for the work and providing your thoughts. Love these ranking videos. Thank you, Julian. I really enjoy doing them. They're a lot of fun. I do enjoy doing them. Salamanders, they have the same stat line, but they have a breath weapon. And what is a breath weapon? A breath weapon is a pain in the ass that you're never going to get onto anything. I think if you're close enough that you're going to be breath weaponing something, you probably want to charge them instead, because you're going to be doing more damage that way. That's maybe not always true, but you've got to get real close with something that's just going to die if it's charged by anything that hits like realistically hard. T4 with only a 5-up save and 3 wounds, that is solid. It's like an ogre with less attacks than an ogre. I don't know. They're like really bad trolls. It's and they're so expensive. I just can't see them. Like this unit realistically needs arcane urgency to function because you can't march and do a breath weapon, which means that you're only ever moving 6 and shooting it unless you do arcane urgency. But how are you getting arcane urgency off? Because there's no real level 4 caster in the army because the Slaanesh is so terrible. It's just like a Rube Goldberg machine, but where everything is already knocked down and it's fallen the wrong way. Give the F the clean sweep. I don't think I want to put Razorgors in F. I can see like a use for them in a casual game. I just can't see Salamanders even in a casual game. Having to take 3 skinks per Razordon gets expensive pretty fast when going up in the numbers. Yeah, I agree. I'm just sort of looking at them as like 75 points per. It's exactly that. It is ablative wounds against shooting, which is something. And also they've got terrible leadership and the war beasts, so they don't get to use leadership. I think as long as a skink's alive, you can use your general's leadership. I'm pretty sure that's how that works, but I'm not sold. So Salamanders are going to stay down in F. We have got more war beasts. This is just sort of the war beast show at this point, because we've got the Saber Tusk packs. They are war beasts. They are movement 8. They're 17 points, which is super cheap because they're T4 with 2 wounds each. So at 17 points, that is, I think, the cheapest point per wound for any unit with Swift Stride. Someone maybe double check me on that one. I don't think there's anything cheaper than what does that put them at? Yeah, 8.5 points per model for a Swift Striding T4 wound. Even a T3 wound, I don't think there's anything that cheap. So yeah, really cheap for what they have. They are weapon skill 4, which is really nice. A surprising amount of war beasts do have that good weapon skill, which is odd. 2 attacks, which is fine. They've only got hand weapons, but they've got armor bane. So again, you're looking really cheap. They are impetuous, which is a little bit of a problem, but then they've got like a whole host of rules as well. Like they've got fear, which makes sense from the models, but for such a cheap unit, it's quite nice. Impetuous, which is not nice. Loner, which is a bit of a problem, but they can be joined by hunters, who does then get the bonus of Swift Stride as well. So as like a character upgrade, they're pretty nice. They've got move through cover, which makes sense thematically, but again, it's not something you always see on these sort of like cheap units. Open order, an option to Swift Stride is good, but maybe you don't go Skirmish if you're looking at, being impetuous. And then you can also buy one of the following. You can give them ambushes, which is the most expensive, scouts, which is the second, or vanguard, which is the least. You can't ever charge on the turn one if you scout. So I do like vanguard more, but yeah, cheap. You take them in 2 to 10. I think they're really solid. Because of that upper cap, you're never going to take like a big Death Star of them, which is probably for the best, because I think this is like the most points efficient wounds you can get in the book. But yeah, no, I just think they're genuinely interesting. I know Jack has been running them. Jack has been playing some ogres recently in the local scene, so that's something that I should probably talk to him about. But yeah, he's solid. Ginger says, I'm going to state my learnings from the stream. Team Scotland loves light cavalry, but hates Glasgow and Edinburgh seems fair. I don't know that Team Scotland hates those. Again, just trying to moderate any intercity fighting. But Aberdeen specifically might do. Thank you very much, though, Ginger Steve. Robert was very cheap to have to buy many of them. Pretty good. Yeah, I really like them. I think they're really solid. Julian says, Sabertusk has been MVP in all my ogre games. Yep, that sounds right for what I expect from them. And Jordan says the core and running less ogres is a solid plus. Yeah, which is weird for an ogre army, isn't it? Here's my in-person experience with them. I haven't used them, but I think I might have lost every game I've played with ogres. Maybe I've won one game with ogres, but I this was like the first army that I played when I started to find competitive games online. I got absolutely rolled. So other people are winning games with ogres. I wasn't winning games with ogres. My ego says it can't be that I'm bad. Therefore, ogres must be... Sabertooth must be pretty good. I think they go... I think they go back on the stream. Yeah, for me, they're going probably in A. I think maybe towards the bottom of A, but I think they're super solid. I'm genuinely a really big fan of them. Vort says, Heil's not doing well in any of these tier lists except dragons. That is unfortunate, and that is because Heils are not doing very well in the game except dragons. It's not quite exactly true. Sisters of Avalon are very good, and there are some ways that you can build your list around which are good, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what we get in the new Arcane Journal. I think there's going to be a lot of exciting stuff in there that, like, the same with the other armies. Maybe you don't get something that you're super excited to run. Maybe you go, I don't really want to play Wolves of the Sea or Hounds of Darkness, but here's some magic items that I've got, or maybe some new spells or some characters. So I'm hoping there's something like that for High Elves to spruce things up. I'm not going to read that comment out, just to make sure I'm not stoking the fires of war between various clans. Entropy says High Elves have sisters, and Callum says High Elves have sisters but no friends. I will stoke the fires of war between High Elves and Dark Elves because we're going to win. Sisters Brick running a handmaiden as the general can't run a prince on dragon. That's very true, but I think that might be worthwhile. You can do some other interesting stuff. It's But you don't want to play loads of sisters feeling a bit let down. That's super fair, super reasonable, but also your book is on the horizon, so I wouldn't worry too much. I reckon within 4 months you'll have a High Elf book, so that should hopefully give you some fresh, fun ways to play. Direwolves are cheaper per wound with Swift Stride. Hell yeah, thank you, Janib. There is one. I think I'm going to take the Sabertooth over the Direwolves, but I appreciate the fact checking there. So yeah, Sabertooth looking solid. It's nice to have some legacy factions doing well that aren't, vampire counts. Speaking of a legacy faction that's doing well, because they've been doing really well in Espot, Giant Rats. I said earlier in the stream, they started off the edition with Strength 3 and Weapon Skill 3, and they were 3 points a model, and they still have this rule, which is fight an extra rank, and it's just always fight an extra rank, not if they charge, to represent them being a swarm unit. They are pretty decent. I really like them in units of 11 with a Master Molder, giving them leadership 7. You put them in a 3 wide, 4 long marching column. We call it a rat dart, and they're incredible move blockers, or you can just use them as move blockers going wide. They're solid. They're move 6. They're amazing. I don't really have much to say about them other than they're so efficient. They come in at, 33... I think it's something like 45 points if you take 11 plus a Master Molder, and that's so cheap. And they come out of core. I think if you didn't have to take Skaven Clan Rats and you could just take Giant Rats, Skaven immediately jump up a tier. Like, if we're being realistic and they're in C tier at the moment, that might even take them up to B tier, just flooding the board with Giant Rats. Maybe that's being too optimistic, but I do really like the Giant Rats. So I'm going to say, for me, Giant Rats are... Oh, is it controversial? Is it controversial to put them here in the bottom of A tier? I'm going to need some input from you, chat, because I might be too high on my own supply. This might be me being too generous with them because I really like Skaven and I want them to do better. So moderate me. Tell me if I'm wrong. Be the dissenting voice if you need to be. Winslow says being able to use Inspiring Presence on them is great too. Yeah, because the Master Molder. Jordan was thinking strong A. Hell yeah. You are my people. Rat bastard. I'm glad you're commenting, but I know you're as biased as me, buddy. 2+ units in every list is a good idea. I agree. I just agree. I was always running 2 lists. Callum says it's not his fault that it's not their fault that Skaven are bollocks. That's fair. A is appropriate due to cost. They're core, they're in every list. Giant Rats for S. I think that might be too much. That might be slightly too far. But in case anyone wants to upset someone, here's where I've put them. In fact, let's just put them ahead of Sister the Thorn. So if you want to take any screenshots just to upset people, you can whack them in there. I'll just put them down. Jack says Hunter plus Sabretooth in skirmish gets -1 to hit still. So unfortunately not. You only get -1 to be hit if you in the shooting phase when you skirmish if you're unit strength 1. So the skirmishers, the Sabretooth would, despite looking like they're a cavalry, they are a war beast, which means they're unit strength 1, which is quite nice. But when the hunter joins them, he isn't able to join them in skirmish. They have to be in a different... they'd have to be in open order, because I think it's open order that they get. Is it? Yeah, open order. Because they've got different unit types, so he can't join them and be in skirmish, unfortunately. Got a few people saying rat pilled, based and Skaven pilled. Hell yeah. Giant Rats and a separate Giant Rat tier above everything else. Perfect. Yeah. So let me just... I've moved them back to where they should be. I think they're really solid, though. I really like Giant Rats, as people have been saying. It's not the Giant Rats' fault that they've jumped down. All right, we're down to our last army, Vampire Counts. Weirdly, for an army that is so good, I'm kind of underwhelmed by their options here. Direwolves, I think they're very comparable to Chaos Warhounds. I feel like there's less reason to take them. I think if I'm looking at undead, I'm quite happy to take, cheap units of like zombies, for example, which do not quite the same job, but a similar job in that, you can redirect with them, you can gum up the board, you can use them to slow down your opponent. Zombies are also super cheap. Direwolves are pretty cheap as well. They do different things, and, they are solid. They have reserve move built in. They have, I want to say, let me just make sure I'm not telling you lies. I want to say that they've got reserve move. Yeah, they have got reserve move. And they're on move 9. You can use them as a pretty decent War Machine Hunter. Yeah. I don't hate them. They're aggressively fine. They're 8 points each as well. So if you're taking 5, that's 40 points, which is quite expensive if you compare them to the Chaos Warhounds, but they've got +2 movement. They have got regen 6+. They've got reserve move. They've got Vanguard. Reserve move doesn't really matter in terms of the comparison between the two, because you just march the Warhounds. Although they are open order, so you get 2 pivots. You get Slavering Charge, which gives them +1 on their strength on the charge. Yeah, Direwolves are good. I just like... I think for me, I sometimes struggle to fit them into lists, because I think the infantry core is genuinely really good for vampire counts, especially if you look at taking a white and putting in either some Black Knights or more realistically Graveguard. Jordan says because the rest of the undead roster is stacked. Yep, that's super fair. That's basically it. Cal says your favorite Light Cav is a Night Goblin boss on Giant Squig. That's fair. I haven't been doing characters for these because they are quite hard to contextualize within the rest of it. But maybe we look at some specific character tier lists coming up. Callum says you like Hex Wraiths in a meta which doesn't have so many pillars of fire and magic missiles. Yeah, this is somewhere where you're like, oh, everyone's taking Ruby Ring of Ruin. Oh, sure. Yeah, that makes me feel good. Tanaka says, I love Hex Wraiths, but they can get pushed out by Blood Knights. If they're in special, I think it was a different discussion. Oh, yeah. They're in rare, aren't they? Let me just double check that, because it's one of those things that I'm like, that is true, but I want to check because that's so sad. Yeah, 0 to 1 Hex Wraiths per Cairn Wraith or Tomb Banshee taken. That is rough. I don't love that. I really don't love that. Yeah, I think... Do we just think that Hex Wraiths go in C? Like, it's not their meta, it's not their time, and they're so pushed out of where they want to be. I think that might be where I would put them. I can't see much justification for further up. Voltron says, where are the Mounted Yeomen? They are currently in A tier. I've got them 4th from the left, bud. It is a smaller text. I should have probably put it on 2 rows to make it more readable, but that is where they are sat. Well, yeah, that's about it. I'm not super upset with any of the rankings we've got here. Is there anything that looks out of place? So Glade Riders are probably, you know what, might make a slight tweak on the Glade Riders, just put them below the Razorgor. I think the Razorgor might be better than them. Marauder Horsemen, Horse Archers, Dark Riders, Yeomen, Sabertooth, Giant Rats. I think Dark Riders have, yeah, they're about fine here. Realistically, something like that. Direwolves, Chaos. Hobgoblin Wolf Riders, I should probably move up to the top of B. The only limitation on those Hobgoblins, as I was saying, is the Khan. They are really good, but you just struggle for points to fit them in. Squig Riders, I know Dave really likes these. He did mention in the comments earlier, I didn't have time to say because we were in the middle of something else, that he really likes them as an immune to psychology, quite cheap screen, and that's fair as well. I get what you're saying. It depends on what you're playing into, I guess, with the whether you're playing into a melee or a shooting matchup. I think Razordons need to move down, probably to the bottom of C there. What do we got? Wild Riders have actual play. Spider Riders, I think Hex Wraiths are worse. Yeah, that looks about right. Looks about right. If you go up against an army that doesn't have magical attacks, you're winning for free. Yeah, that's absolutely true. I was writing a really funny list with them and Black Coaches that I now realize is probably not legal. This is before any army builds were out. This was super early in the edition. I was like, oh, but what if I just take everything ethereal? Then my opponent can't kill me. Yeah. Winslow says, love seeing a mutant pig in between 2 Wood Elf Cavalry at the top. That sounds like a night... A night out in Newcastle. Oh, miss my hometown. That Rat Bastard says, a quick off-topic question for the end of the stream. How many gutter runners in a gutter star is best with the Grey Seer and a Swift Stride Battle Standard Bearer? They start to get in their own way when big, but then I want to make the buffs go further. Yes, that is a good... let's have a look here. If I pull up sketchpad.io, let's share this tab instead. So what I quite like doing is, how's this looking? Yeah. So you've got your bases here for the gutter runners, and you're going to go in this sort of checkerboard formation. And I have made some little just magnetic strips that are in this shape. So you can see through here like so, and you've got good line of sight for it. If you run 3 groups of 5, so then you can do the same here, like so. So I guess you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you can curve around here, for example, and you've got another one. You can just sort of like curve around the unit, and then you've got some stragglers here. Basically, what you want to do is, if I go for a new page. How do I do this? There we go. So if what you've got, let's say you've got a dragon here. D for dragon. You're going to put your unit in. You swift stride to 24 inches, and you're just going to sit sort of like this. That's going to be your game plan. Oh, I'm not on the screen entirely. I forgot it was... Let's just make a new screen. Yeah, so just briefly, if I go like this, yeah, here we go. So here's the dragon. What you want to do is you want to fly. So if you've got the vision arc here, you're going to fly and be like that. When you're sort of doing a checkerboard pattern like this, like, yeah, it's hard to draw with the mouse, but basically you want to get all your attacks in. And especially if you're going for a large target, everyone can see. So you can actually just sort of go for like, here's a big brick of of gutter runners. You get loads of attacks in. Like so. Oh, thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. Yeah, I definitely like those little skirmish trays, the 5-man zigzags. Not the 2 units intertwined. So this is a really good point. So we've just moved over to skirmish talk. So if let's make a new page here. So let's say you've got a unit like so. 1, 2, it doesn't actually matter how many models there are, you just got some skirmishes like this. Then if you go let's pick a color here, you're going for unit number 2, and unit number 2 is like this. Perfect. Because they're intertwined with each other, whenever anyone shoots at you, like no matter what angle they're at, let's say they're in front of you and they can see like this, both units are getting -1 to be shot. So this is a really nice little avoidance tool that you want to go for. Do you feel like Harpies could have gone on the list too? Yeah, that's super fair. Harpies I'd put up in probably A if we're just sort of ranking those quickly. So, oops, that's the wrong one. Let's go back to the tier list. So that is that. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking around. It's been a lot of fun. Always enjoy doing these. Apologies, I've not been putting quite as many videos out as I normally would. There is redundancies going on at work, and I haven't been told yet if I'm losing my job or not. So I've been doing a lot of sort of job hunting and stressing, honestly. As much as I would love to make this channel go full-time, it is probably a good couple of years off before I'd even be able to consider doing that. But it has been nice, especially the generous support that people have been giving does give me a little bit of a cushion that I can theoretically fall back on. And yeah, I'll be looking to, I don't know, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks I find out whether I keep my job, and then I can just have some answers as to which direction I go into. Oh, don't apologize, Callum. It's not a problem at all. It was, thank you so much for coming on. I'll shoot you a message after this as well. I really appreciate you coming on as well. Cool. Well, that is that for the evening. Thank you so much. As always, there is a Discord linked down below if you want to argue with my opinion, although it seemed like people were pretty much on board this time around. Do so in the Discord linked below, and yeah, catch you around. See you in the next one.